The carving knife slipped from my fingers, clattering against the porcelain platter with a sound like shattering glass. Turkey juices splattered across the lace tablecloth, staining it in ugly, irregular blots. But that wasn't what made my heart seize. It was my daughter, Emily, her face twisted into a mask of raw contempt, pointing a trembling finger at me from across the table. "Get out," she hissed, her voice low and venomous, cutting through the murmurs of our extended family like a whip. "You're not welcome here anymore. This is my house now, and I won't have you poisoning it." The room froze. Aunt Clara's fork hovered mid-air, a green bean dangling precariously. Uncle Ted's cheeks flushed redder than the cranberry sauce, his eyes darting between us. The scent of roasted herbs and pumpkin pie turned cloying, suffocating, as if the air itself had thickened with betrayal. My husband, Mark, sat beside me, his hand still on my knee under the table, a gesture that had once felt protective but now burned like an accusation. I stared at Emily, my only child, the girl I'd raised through scraped knees and teenage rebellions, now a woman of 32 with her own home, her own life. Her eyes, so like mine, hazel flecked with gold, held no warmth, only a cold, calculated fury. What are you talking about?" I stammered, my voice cracking. Humiliation washed over me in waves, hot and prickling, making my skin crawl. The chair legs scraped against the hardwood floor as I shifted, the sound echoing in the silence. I could feel the weight of everyone's gaze, judging, pitying. My mind raced back through the months, the arguments over her failing marriage, the loans I'd given her that she never repaid, the way she'd started pulling away after her divorce. But this, kicking me out of Thanksgiving dinner. It was absurd, a nightmare unfolding in slow motion. Emily leaned forward, her knuckles white against the table's edge. "You know exactly what I'm talking about, Mom. The lies, the manipulation. How you've been whispering in Dad's ear for years, turning him against me. And now, with the will. You think I don't know you convinced him to cut me out?" My breath caught. The will. Mark's parents had passed last year, leaving a modest inheritance. We'd discussed it privately, Mark and I, deciding to split it evenly, but Emily's reckless spending had worried us. We'd set aside a trust for her, nothing more. But she made it sound like sabotage. "That's not true," I whispered, glancing at Mark for support. He was staring at his plate, fork idle, his face pale under the warm glow of the chandelier. "Emily, please," Aunt Clara interjected softly, her voice trembling. "This is Thanksgiving. Family. Family." Emily spat, her laugh bitter and sharp. "This woman isn't family. She's a leech. Always has been. Get out, Mom. Now." The word Mom twisted like a knife in my gut. Heartbreak surged, mingled with a rising tide of anger. How dare she? After everything, the sleepless nights nursing her through fevers, the sacrifices to put her through college. I stood slowly, my legs unsteady, the room spinning slightly from the wine I'd barely touched. "Fine," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "If that's how you want it." But as I turned toward the door, coat rack looming in the foyer like a sentinel, Mark stood up. The chair pushed back with a deliberate scrape, drawing all eyes to him. My heart leaped. Finally he'd defend me, remind her of boundaries, of respect. He cleared his throat, his Adam's apple bobbing nervously. "Wait," he said, his voice gravelly. He looked at Emily, not me. "She's right, Laura. It's time you left." The world tilted. Betrayal hit like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. Mark, my husband of 35 years, the man who'd promised forever in a rainy chapel, sided with her. His eyes met mine briefly, filled with something I couldn't name. Guilt? Relief? What? I choked out, resentment boiling up, hot and acrid. I've known about the things you've said," he continued, his words halting. "The way you've criticized her behind her back. And the money. You've been hiding transactions, Laura. From me. From all of us. Half-truths twisted into weapons. I'd hidden nothing. I'd managed our finances, shielded him from Emily's endless demands. But now, in this moment, it all unraveled. The family murmured, heads nodding as if they'd suspected it all along. Humiliation burned deeper, a fire in my chest. I grabbed my coat, the wool scratching against my skin, and stormed out into the crisp November night. The door slammed behind me, the sound final like a coffin lid. The drive home was a blur of streetlights and tears. Rain pattered against the windshield, mirroring the storm inside me. How had it come to this? Denial crept in first. Maybe it was a misunderstanding, a heated moment. But no. Emily's eyes had held triumph. Mark's avoidance a confession. They'd planned this. Whispered conspiracies while I prepared the pies, oblivious. Heartbreak twisted into resentment, a dark seed taking root. By the time I pulled into our empty driveway, the house dark and unwelcoming, obsession had begun to stir. They thought they could discard me, humiliate me in front of everyone. I poured a glass of whiskey, the amber liquid burning down my throat. Sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by the ghosts of family meals, I replayed the scene. Emily's smirk. Mark's betrayal. Fantasies flickered, storming back, screaming truths. But no, that was too raw, too immediate. Revenge needed patience, a slow burn. Doubt nagged, was I the villain here? Had I been too controlling, too critical? Guilt flickered, but resentment smothered it. They'd crossed a line. And make them pay. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains, mocking my sleepless night. Mark hadn't come home, a text blinked on my phone. Staying with Emily tonight. We need space. As if our marriage was a room to air out. Anger solidified into resolve, cold and unyielding. I started small, subtle. Logging into our joint accounts, I noted every transaction Emily had influenced. The loans that were gifts, the credit card charges for her essentials. Evidence. Ammunition. Days blurred into weeks. Thanksgiving faded, but the wound festered. I avoided calls from relatives, their pitying voices like salt. Instead, I watched from afar. Social media posts. Emily beaming at a holiday market, Mark's arm around her shoulders. Family time with Dad, the caption read. No mention of me. Obsession grew, a constant hum in my mind. I imagined their conversations, laughing at my expense, plotting the divorce papers I suspected were coming. One evening, as snow dusted the lawn, Mark finally returned. The door creaked open, his footsteps hesitant on the creaky floorboards. He looked older, lines etched deeper around his eyes. "Laura," he said, setting his bag down with a thud. "We need to talk." I nodded, pouring coffee, the steam rising like a veil between us. "About what?" "How you threw me under the bus." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "It's not that simple, Emily. She's been struggling. And you've been hard on her." "Hard?" I echoed, voice rising despite my resolve. "I gave her everything. And you let her humiliate me." His eyes softened, but there was steel beneath. "Maybe it's time we admit things haven't been right for a while. The arguments, the distance. Manipulation." He was rewriting our history. Inner conflict raged. Part of me wanted to beg to fix it. But the betrayal lingered, a poison. "So what? Divorce?" He didn't deny it. "Perhaps. For everyone's sake." That night, alone in our bed, sheets cold and unfamiliar, planning began in earnest. Revenge wouldn't be loud. It would be surgical. Emily's ex-husband, Tom. He'd left her amid whispers of her infidelity. I dismissed them once, loyal to my daughter. Now, dig. And Mark's secrets. The late nights at work, the unexplained receipts. Doubt whispered. Was I becoming the monster they accused? But resentment drowned it. They'd started this. Denned it. Christmas approached. Lights twinkling mockingly on neighbors' homes. I feigned reconciliation, inviting them for dinner. "Let's put it behind us," I said over the phone, voice honeyed. Emily hesitated, but Mark convinced her. "Fools. The table was set impeccably, china gleaming, candles flickering. The aroma of ham and cloves filled the air. They arrived together, coats dusted with snow. Emily's smile was wary, Mark's forced. "Mom," she said, hugging me stiffly. The word grated. Dinner progressed with strained politeness. Small talk about weather, work. Tension simmered beneath, like a pot about to boil over. Then, as dessert was served, apple pie, Emily's favorite, I dropped the first hint. "I spoke to Tom the other day," I said casually, fork piercing the crust with a soft crunch. Emily froze. "Why?" "Oh, just checking in. He mentioned some interesting things about your marriage." Mark shifted uncomfortably. "Laura, maybe not now." But I pressed on, voice even. "Like how you blamed him for everything, but really, it was the affairs." Emily's face paled. "That's a lie." "Is it?" I pulled out my phone, showing emails. Tom's confessions, screenshots of messages. Fabricated. Partially. But believable. Suspense built as her eyes widened. "Dad, she's doing it again, twisting things." Mark looked between us, conflicted. But I'd planted the seed. Dinner ended abruptly. Them leaving in a huff. Alone, guilt tugged. Had I gone too far? Well, this was justice. The new year brought escalation. Divorce papers arrived. Mark's signature bold. Heartbreak resurfaced, but resolve hardened. I hired a private investigator, discreet and expensive. Reports trickled in. Emily's new boyfriend, a con artist with debts. Mark's work trips. Actually visits to an old flame. Layers peeled back, revealing their hypocrisies. Fear crept in during quiet moments. What if they discovered my machinations? Moral conflict gnawed. Was revenge worth my soul? But obsession won. I'd expose them, ruin their illusions. Winter gripped the city. Sidewalks slick with ice that mirrored my frigid determination. I moved through days like a shadow, my home a fortress of files and notes. The investigator's envelope arrived one stormy afternoon. Thunder rumbling as I tore it open. Photos spilled out, Mark and a woman. His secretary from years ago, entwined in a hotel lobby. Emily, laughing with her boyfriend in a seedy bar. Stacks of cash changing hands. Evidence of embezzlement from her job. Whispers of fraud. Resentment surged, vindicating my path. But guilt lingered, a whisper in the dark. This was my family. Once. Now enemies. Inner thoughts warred. Fantasies of confrontation clashed with doubt. What if forgiveness was the answer? Well, they'd humiliated me, discarded me. Cold resolve settled like frost. I started with subtle strikes. Anonymous tips to Emily's employer. Discrepancies in accounts. A week later, her frantic call. "Mom, something's wrong at work. They're auditing me." Innocence feigned. "Oh, honey, that's awful. Need help." She hung up, suspicion brewing. Suspense mounted as I watched her unravel on social media. Posts about betrayals and karma. Ironic. Mark next. I accidentally forwarded the photos to his boss, sent him. His return home was explosive, door slamming, face thunderous. "What the hell, Laura? You leaked those." "Me." I blinked, voice calm. "Must be a hack. Or maybe your past catching up." He paced, boots thudding on the rug. "This could ruin me. My job, my reputation." Heartbreak flickered. Memories of our youth, laughter in parks. But betrayal's scar throbbed. "Like you ruined ours." Dialogue sharpened, revealing cracks. "I never meant to hurt you," he admitted, slumping into a chair. The leather creaked under his weight. "Emily pushed me. Said you were controlling, that I needed to stand up. Manipulation exposed. And you believed her. After everything." Guilt etched his features. I was weak. Weak. The word fueled my obsession. But moral conflict surged. Was I any better, orchestrating their downfall? As spring thawed the ice, tension peaked. Emily lost her job, the fraud investigation public. She confronted me at a coffee shop. The air thick with espresso and rain from outside. Tables cluttered with laptops. Patrons oblivious. "You did this," she accused, voice a hiss. Her hair was disheveled, eyes red-rimmed. "Did what?" I sipped my latte, foam clinging to my lip. "The tips. The leaks. You're destroying me." Suppressed rage boiled in her eyes. Mine stayed cool. "Maybe it's your own actions." She leaned in, breath hot. "Dad told me about the photos. You're a monster." The word stung, echoing my doubts. But resentment won. "A monster. After you kicked me out like trash." Tears welled. I was angry. "You always favored control over love." Layered truth, her motivation revealed. Resentment from a controlling upbringing. Complexity hit. She wasn't evil, just broken. Like me. But the plan proceeded. I arranged a reconciliation dinner at a neutral restaurant. Dim lights casting long shadows. Rain pelted the windows, rhythmic and ominous. They arrived wary, Mark's hand on Emily's arm. United against me. We ordered, silverware clinking. Small talk frayed. Then the payoff. "I have something," I said, pulling out a folder. Documents inside. Proof of Mark's affair spanning years. Emily's embezzlement details. Even her boyfriend's criminal record. "What is this?" Mark demanded, voice low. "Insurance," I replied. "Sign the divorce papers without contest, Mark. And Emily, stay out of my life. Or this goes public." Shock rippled. Emily's face crumpled. "Mom, please." Heart twisting, I hesitated. Guilt flooded. This was revenge, but at what cost? Fear of loneliness gripped me. Mark's eyes hardened. "You think this fixes anything? You're alone now." The twist struck. As they stood to leave, Emily whispered, "We knew, Mom. About your own secrets." My blood chilled. What secrets? Later, alone in the restaurant, a text from an unknown number. Photos of me years ago in a compromising position. An old fling I'd buried. They dug too. Poetic justice slammed home. My revenge had backfired, exposing us all. Psychological impact crushed. Obsession led to mutual destruction. In the end, divorce finalized quietly. Emily moved away, Mark to his lover. I sat in the empty house, rain still falling, resentment fading to hollow regret. The pursuit had consumed me, leaving ashes. But in the quiet, a cold resolve remained. Survival. Alone but unbroken.